Hey there, guys. Michael Epstein here with some great information. So, I am 66, and in about 5 weeks I'll be 67. I have an almost 5-year-old and an almost 7-year-old little boys. And health is most important to me, because if I don't have my health, my boys might not have a dad. So besides the biohacking, which is another story which you really need to hear about, but I want to talk about what I've done for, in 3 days, it will be 3 weeks. And that is, I went 100% carnivore. That means eating only beef, salt, water, and repeat. That's it for 7 days. In that 7 days, I started at 153, and it took me about a year to get to there naturally. It was really great. But I went from 153 down to 147 in 3 days. Then back up to 150, and it pretty much stayed there. It's almost 3 weeks. What I've incorporated now is beef, water, salt, organic grass-fed New Zealand butter, and electrolytes, and something called Axia, which is a nootropic, which gives your body and mind cognitive function. And it's absolutely stellar. I feel amazing. My buddy Toma, I almost look as good as him. There you go. But when you have a oversized gut, especially in your upper 60s, this is disease. This is not good to have excess, because it affects the adipose tissue inside your gut, and you don't want fat around your internal organs. But the great thing about, now I'll just say this, a lot of people would say, and let me even go back, 2 years ago, let's say 3 years ago to even be more solid, if you'd have came up to me and said, you know what, you should eat rare meat or a medium rare meat with butter, and only eat that. Considering that in 7 days from today, it'll be 21 years that my father had passed away from heart disease. He died at 68, and in 1 year and 5 weeks, I'll be 68. He died as an old man because he didn't take care of himself, because he ate incorrectly. I love my dad and mom more than anything in the world, and I miss them. But the important thing is we are what we eat, and that's the bottom line. So if you go back, millions of years to the days of dinosaurs and cavemen. Cavemen did not have Oreos. Didn't have even chicken nuggets. Didn't have carrots. Didn't have broccoli, cauliflower, anything like that. They ate meat. When they were hungry, they ate meat. When they were full, they stopped eating. And I'll bet you anything that back in the day, I'll bet you they didn't have heart disease. I'll bet you they didn't have cancer, because they were eating what was meant for them to eat back in those days. We are still carnivores. Now, 2 years ago, I was a 100% absolute plant-based vegan. And the reason why I did that is because my dad, passed away from heart disease, and my grandfather passed away from heart disease at 64, both of them after open heart surgery. My cousins, my uncles, my aunts died of heart disease and cancer. And me being 60 and 62 years older than my kids, I want to be that best version of myself as much as possible. I'm going to just give this little scenario. When you eat regular food, I'm going to just use my dad as a hypothetical. Dad, I love you so much, and I wish you were still here with me. But let's take my dad's diet, and then again, this is back 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Big old steak. Like, here's my son's plate. Just imagine a big old chuck steak hanging off the plate with a bunch of fat. A baked potato or mashed potatoes with a bunch of butter. Some veggies. Salad. And then after that, gotta have that dessert. pie, ice cream, whatever. This is Mama over here. And, but anyways.
I'm very ugly. No hair.
There is, it's very important when you're eating all of that. By the way, she had a bilateral double lung transplant 9 months ago, and she's walking around with oxygen free. Anyways, when you're eating all that stuff, all of the carbohydrates, the unwanted carbohydrates, the good carbohydrates, they all mix together. And what ends up happening is the body just uses those carbohydrates as more of a fuel for the protein, whatever that protein may have been. McDonald's, chicken nuggets, whatever kids and stuff eat, which shouldn't be eaten. So all of that stuff gets pushed out to the sides and utilized as much as possible. But fat starts building fat, things that the body doesn't recognize. So the carbohydrates go out as feces, also connects to different areas, and that's how people get heavier and heavier. What happens to the fat? Now think of this for a moment. As you're eating like my dad ate way back in that day, you didn't actually, hey, let's step out over here. I'd like, because it's too loud in here, and I would like to finish this in a really different aspect, because this is information that is really important. And my boys are enjoying their stuff over there. So I'm going to come over here and just sit here for a moment. So the thing is this. This is much better. When you're eating all of that stuff, the fat doesn't know what to do. Fat has a job to do, but the fat just sits around. So it follows at the very end of all of those unwanted and some wanted carbohydrates, so to say, to help support the protein that is supposed to support your body as fuel and energy so you can do your daily tasks, whatever it may be. What happens is the body starts fatiguing because these vegetables and carbohydrates that you actually somewhat think is good for you, it bogs the body down. The body starts getting issues of inflammation and dis-ease. So when my carnivore buddies, 2 of them, I'll name their first names, Steve and Brian, kept telling me to go back to eating meat and I'm missing out and I shouldn't be eating as a vegan. And I tell them, look, dudes, I know health. I've been in the industry for many years, and I know eating a vegan diet is very good if you get the right proteins. What I didn't know is that a lot of the vegetables and fruits that grow have protectants, and I had no issues with it, but a lot of people end up with all kinds of insults to their body, where it's sneezing, coughing, getting sick from it. It breaks down your protectants. So those protectants that help the protect from bugs and insects, we eat that as vegetables, and it can tarnish our immunity. So the fat just sits around, doesn't know what to do. The carbohydrates sit around, don't know what to do. The protein doesn't do its full potential, and it starts breaking down the body and creates something called oxidative stress. But let's go to a carnivore diet. My friends kept trying to tell me this, so I went to the extreme. I went to the extreme of something called the lion diet. And the lion diet is very strict. It is sodium, which is salt. It is beef and water, and that's it. So I did my due diligence and research, and I said to myself, well, my dad died of all this, my uncles and cousins and so forth, but what they didn't have the right information. I'm going to give that to you. So for the first 7 days, I went strict. That's all I ate. Beef, the beef, the fat from the beef, and salt and water. And you need a lot of sodium. You need those electrolytes in your body. Then for the next 2 weeks now almost, I incorporated some other electrolytes and some what's called Axio, which is a nootropic, and grass-fed butter, which you need fat. Now let me explain. I'm going to end with this. Here's how fat works. Here's how eating as a carnivore diet really works. I started my diet, my eating regime, not diet, eating regime at 153 pounds. In 3 days, I was down to 147. The next day I was back up to 149, and then I stayed at 150. And I've been fluctuating between 148 and 150 since I started, which means it's putting my body in the state it's going to be. Here's the great thing that people don't know, and I didn't know. I knew it, but I didn't know it, and I didn't put it together. That is, when you eat meat and only meat as a carnivore, what happens is your body is first, you're eating meat and you're eating the fat of the meat. And let's say you're eating butter as well. Let's put it there. Your body is first searching for the carbohydrate, and it's starting to get confused. So where's my carbohydrate? So it starts messing with the insulin gates, which controls the sugar production in your body. The insulin has to do with everything of how your body regulates you. So that starts freaking out because it's going, wait a second, we don't know what to do here because we don't have a job. You're supposed to just do all your work. No carbohydrates, so the insulin gates kind of open. And it utilizes insulin in place of those carbohydrates temporarily. But then those insulin gates go, wait a second, we can't do this job anymore, and it shuts down. Now it's looking for something else. It looks for the stored fat, the stored unwanted cells from all those carbohydrates in the very beginning that I talked about that get out there. Now those pieces actually start being used as a source of energy to fuel the fire of the protein, okay? So what ends up happening, that keeps getting used and used and used. That's called intermittent fasting. So when your body's looking for that, it's searching. But if it doesn't find anything, it starts using that. So what happens now, only eating the protein and the fat and water, the body starts utilizing the fat as the source of fiber, believe it or not, and the source of carbohydrates. And here's something that's really great to understand, especially if you've done keto. Fat can't lay fat on fat. So when the fat is the only source to supply the protein, it starts grabbing those particles of those unwanted cells from those carbohydrates, and then the fat starts pulling fat from different areas, including the arterial vessels. It takes time. But when you're eating like my dad did, the fat starts filling those arterial vessels, and that's what took my dad's life. But when you're not eating anything else and you're only using, and I mean only using the fat is going to start extracting the crap out of your vessels, your arteries, and it's going to cleanse you because your body is going to always expect just beef, water, salt, fat, electrolytes. And if you're only putting that in, it's not being confused with everything else. Chicken pie, lemon meringue pie, burritos, tostadas, fried whatever. It doesn't know what to do with that, but it does know what to do with this. So now, contact me, find out more about, or contact Toma to find out more about, or contact Tori to find out more about, or contact Brian to find out more about how you can become that best version of yourself health-wise, and how you can help others achieve that. And in doing so, it may put a little extra cushion on that little wallet in the back pocket. Just saying. If you pan around, this new way of eating regime and understanding health and nutrition bought me this paradise. So